Goeiedei and welcome. My name is Amarenske, and in this Frisian Friday I will be talking a little bit more about our culture. Language history will be a different video, and of course I already made a bunch of videos about language in general here. Some funny things I noticed, some more serious things about grammar or pronunciation I did. So let's talk about culture now. And start with religion. I did not think I would want to talk about this, but I will give a little bit of information about how many people are religious and roughly in what religions they belong. But also, quite a lot of people are actually atheists or people who don't belong to a religion. 49% of the people in Friesland adhere to a religion, which means 51% don't, which is quite a lot. It's more than just over half of the population. When I read this, I actually hadn't expected that, and I don't know how much of this is true because I found it on the Frisian Wikipedia. Yes, we do have a Frisian Wikipedia. I will link the page I used for this video in the description below. But of the about 46% of the people who do believe belong to one form or another of Christianity, and another 5% is Muslim or another religion. And the reason why I didn't split up the forms of Christianity is because we have some versions that if you translate it to English it would probably be the same thing, and there is also just a minimal difference between them, which is the case with a lot of delineations of Christianity. So I didn't think it was very useful to talk about it actually. I'd rather talk about sports, even though I'm not that much into sports. We have several sports that are very akin to ourselves, to our culture. One of it is vierliepen, in which the vierlieper, or the sports person, climbs on a long pole. He runs to it, he jumps in it, he climbs up, and he is supposed to hit the other side of the water because the pole is situated in the water, and the sand on the other side of the water, he is supposed to jump as far as possible. Then we have kaatsen, in which you, in a certain way, hit a small little ball. I don't really know how it works. I believe I tried it once or so, but I have not really a good clue about the rules. There is something about that you have to hit it as far as possible, but I don't know exactly how it works. There is one big competition every year that gets a lot of media attention, at least in Friesland itself, but maybe also somewhat in the Netherlands. And it's called the PC and organized in Frisian, the place where I was born and the place also that houses the oldest working planetarium in the world, the IJsselga Planetarium, where I made a video about that I might actually link about above in the cards. And then we have the well-known Kultuer, in which people in quite large sailing ships, specific sailing ships called scootjes, sail a race throughout, I think, the Frisian lakes as well as over seawater. I don't know exactly where they go past because I'm not that much of a sports watcher. I'm also not that much in these kinds of sports. If I play a sport or if I want to take place in a sport, I'll probably try and play it. And otherwise I like the more artistic forms of sports like dancing, but also the kind of figure skating, ice skating. We do have a very well-known ice hall in Friesland, Tialf, in Jervin, where a lot of ice skating competitions national and international are organized. But I've never been there. I've gone past it with a train, but I've never actually been there. But ice skating or raidrijden in Frisian is actually quite a big thing here. We do have the Overstedetocht, of which I also made a video. I can also link that above. I don't know if it will fit in with all my cards. It will probably. But the skating version, the ice skating version, hasn't been here in a long time. I believe the last one was in 1997, the year my sister was born. After that, it has never been cold enough for long enough to build up enough ice to let all the skaters go over it, because the event would be pretty big if it would go on now. So it needs to hold not only all the people who want to go ice skating, but also the media teams that would film and report it. So it just takes like 1 or 2 weeks of medium to severe freezing for it to take hold, basically, which hasn't happened in years and years and years. I do remember one time when it was cold enough for long enough, but we had snow ice, and you can't properly ice skate on snow ice. It's not strong enough, or it needs to be freezing up for a longer amount of time than just regular ice without the snow on it. But outside of these three sports and the ice hall, we also have football, which would be called soccer in the US. It's quite important here, and we have sort of a team rivalry between Cambuur in Ljouwert and SK Jereveen from Jereveen, of course, where also Tialf is situated. Those are the two biggest teams here that also play in the paid soccer teams. But more in line with this channel, we'll talk about a little bit about literature. We do have our own publishing house for Frisian books, Avuk, where I have actually been to yesterday, because it's not only the book of the Frisian, the month of the Frisian book, but also it's a book week, Dutch book week. So you can get books if you buy for a certain amount of money, books for a certain amount of money, specifically Dutch books, because Dutch Book Week is meant to celebrate the Dutch book, and of course the month van het Frieske boek, or the month of the Frisian book, is the month to celebrate Frisian literature. So I went there and I got some books, because I had been eyeing a Frisian fairy tale collection for a very long time, and I thought it would be the perfect time to get it, and to get a Frisian book gift, because when you buy for a certain amount of money, you get a book for free. So I did, and it was fun. But the publishing house does publish about 100 books a year in Frisian. There are Frisian people who I think publish there, but they publish in Dutch, and that's more likely to be historical stuff that they want everyone in the Netherlands to be able to read. They even have published an English version of Frisian grammar, so international people can learn basic Frisian grammar. It will be a little bit more difficult to learn the pronunciation, of course, if you don't have something to listen to with a spelling next to it. And we have a Frisian book gala, which I didn't know until I did a little bit of research, but I thought it was funny and also interesting to know, because there is also a Dutch book week that starts off with a book gala, which is basically just kind of a pretentious thing where like well-known Dutch people go to. I don't know how it is with the Frisian one. I've never been there. I never even heard of it. It probably is filmed and put on the television in Friesland. I have no clue. I haven't watched that Frisian television broadcaster in a very, very long time. But I can name you some well-known Frisian authors. We start off with Renk van der Velde, Abe Brouwer, Gisbert Japix. Gisbert Japix actually is very, very well known. There is streets and all named after him, especially in Frisian places. It's a little bit like Teun de Vries, who originally wrote in Dutch, but he comes from a very well-known place to me, a place where I lived for a very long time, but then a long time before, and he wrote about that. He wrote short story collections about it. He probably did write some poems about it as well, because sometimes you see with Dutch authors, they, for example, write literary fiction. They also write essay collections and poetry. They have very wide range of stuff they write. They don't just keep to one thing like genre fiction, most of them. Some of them do, especially new ones, but like people who have been established usually have written a whole bunch of different things. We have Eeltje Hiddes Halbersma, which is a female, the other ones are all male. Hadn't heard of her. Didn't see a book in a publishing house that was written by her, but she probably is well known. I'll grant it to her. Then we have other media. We have Frisian newspapers, or newspapers who write in Dutch and Frisian. We have the main newspaper, that's the Leeuwarden Krante, which is written and printed in Leeuwarden, the capital. You can get it physically on paper, you can also get it digitally. Then we have a lot of Frisian villages that have their own village paper, basically. I think that might have been, it's still common here, but it might have been common in a lot of places a long time ago. And we also have our own television broadcasting station, or as we call it in Frisian, een stuurder. It's called Omroep Friesland, and mostly does Frisian-based news and programming. There's also some Frisian movies I did not really know about. Of course I have seen some, but not ones on those lists, because the oldest one is from 1937. The only one I have seen, I think, is Sportman van de Eeuw, because one of my classmates did have a tiny role in it years and years and years ago. It released in 2006, which is when I was about in the first grade of secondary school. So we went there because one of my classmates had a role in it. We have music too, of course. Mostly I will name some famous or well-known artists. We have Gerbe Douwstra, Peter Wilkens, which has some songs I actually like. It feels a very bit nostalgic. The Kast, which started off as completely Frisian, but later also started making Dutch music and maybe even English, so that they could spread their, fan base over the country and maybe further. Then we have Twares, who has, to my knowledge, one or two very popular Frisian songs, but they also make a lot of English ones. Anneke Dauma, Doe de Veenman, which made a very, very, very comical song about a wedding that completely went wrong, but it's actually a cover of an Amsterdam song, so. And as a final thing, we also, of course, we have some theater organizations. We have Theater, we have like organizations in different places that are at least a little bit renowned throughout the country. But they also perform a lot of open air plays, so Triata actually has a building, and they don't only do plays, they also do general, they store books, they have other kinds of events, and all that kind of stuff. And then we have some general events. Most are about music, they are basically festivals. We have Oerol on one of the islands, Veenhoop Festival, Snitsbeke or Snakebeek, which is a festival of a week in Snits, one of the 11 cities, in which like it's usually around the Scootjesiel event too, and the Scootjes come through or next to the place so you can see them. Then we have Wadrak, although I live very, very close to that, but I believe they don't do it anymore, or they do it less, because it gave some problems with the noise it made. We live basically 6 kilometers away from it, and we could still, at least in part, enjoy the sound, so they probably did not take into account that people who live very close to it might have problems with it, and at a certain point they could not get enough bands to play there, so didn't go on. But this was it for now. Thank you for watching, and tot de volgende keer!